Good evening, everyone. It's Michelle Lee. We're here. We're getting ready to get real on episode 2 of season 2 with two amazing songwriters. One from New England area, the New Hampshire area, the wonderful state of New Hampshire, Mr. Rick Lang, as well as Troy Engle from South Central Pennsylvania. Looking forward to talking with both these gentlemen today. Of course, as we remember also a fellow broadcaster, Bob Mitchell, who passed away yesterday. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about Bob later on, but we're going to dedicate this episode to Bob and his memory and his legacy in bluegrass community. So let's get right to it. Let's get real with Troy and Rick. Hi, guys.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. Hey, Rick.
Great to be on the show. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And, it's great to have not just one, but two Grammy nominated songwriters to be on a show like this to get real, as we're going to get real with songwriting. Of course, some albums that you guys have released, plus who knows what else is going to come up. But I know you guys have lots of stories that you're going to share with us, and I cannot wait for that to take place. And, first and foremost, for those who kind of like, know you but don't really know you guys, Rick, let's start with you and your background from the new wonderful state of New Hampshire.
Yeah. Well, most of my life is spent in the lumber business. I got to have just finishing up a 50-year career working with sawmills and people in the wood industry. And then about 30 years ago, I took up an interest in songwriting and get very serious and passionate about it. So for the last 30 years or so, I've worked hard to try to develop some sort of skill set at songwriting, and it's just turned into something that's been a love of my life.
And he's good at it.
And of course, Troy, you're from South Central Pennsylvania, and you're no stranger of working with Rick. But how did you get involved into songwriting specifically?
Gosh, I've probably been writing songs since I was 10 years old. I remember writing stuff in elementary school, but I'm sure it wasn't very good. Not that I've gotten that much better maybe since then. I don't know. But, I was always into writing, even being, I'm also a musician too. So, but I always loved the lyrics of songs and that kind of thing and how those things were crafted. I just thought that was the coolest thing. So, been writing for a long time. Once I started playing the Mark Newton band, that was probably my first time having stuff cut that I wrote, and being in a band. So that was sort of the beginning of all that. So, and playing, Rick Lang songs and local bands that I played with,
Right. As you guys look at your catalog of songs, you guys have written several songs together. How did you guys, can you both like kind of think back to the day you guys first met and then decided, you know what, let's give a co-writing a shot? On how many years ago was that? Rick, I mean, you think about it, you've been writing for some time, Troy's been writing for some time, but do you remember that first time you two met?
I do. And it was kind of life-changing for me. In the year 2012, I went to a leadership bluegrass in Nashville, and I wanted to get more involved in the music business. And at that time, I had never co-written a song with anybody in my life. I had spent 20 to 25 years solo writing. And when I was down there, I decided I should reach out to some people that I knew or knew of to try co-writing. Troy was one of the probably the first person I contacted to ask if he would be willing to write with me. And we didn't know each other well, but I know he was a good guy. I know he's very talented. He's a good writer, great musician and singer. And he welcomed me in. I went to his house and met his family, and we sat down, and it was easy. We just hit it off, and we wrote a song. Our first song we wrote together was called Best Laid Plans. And that was a personal song about, Troy's sort of about Troy's family and Troy's son. It was kind of built on a storyline that was pretty cool. And we finished the song, and we've been writing together ever since. Ironically, the very first song we wrote got cut by Larry Stevenson.
That was our first cut as co-writers, I think.
Our first song was a cut, and
yeah.
We wrote together for every time I would go to Nashville. And then he moved back to Pennsylvania, and I thought, oh my God, I was in withdrawal for a while. And then one summer, our family was going out to Hershey, PA, to go to Hershey Park, and I saw where he lived like an hour from there, so I left everybody at the park.
He didn't want to go to Hershey Park, is what it was.
I didn't want to go to Hershey Park. I couldn't afford the attendance fee. So,
so he went and wrote a song instead, yeah.
So my family had a good time there, and went there, and we wrote a song, and then I came back and I said, heck, I'm not going to be going to Hershey, Pennsylvania every year. So we got a hold of Troy and said, man, you want to start remote writing? And we did, and we've written a lot of really, really good songs. Gotten good response from them. And
you're the only person I've ever done remote writing sessions with. So
really,
yep. So that's a first for me, and I wasn't sure how it would go, but it's been awesome. It's been great.
Yeah, seriously, they're good songs. I know some of them are going to be covered at some point, or Troy will record them, or I'll record them sometime. But it's been fun. Troy's such a great guy to write with.
Oh, that was a blast. It's an honor getting right with Rick Lang. When I was growing up, Lonesome River Band, listen to the Word of God. I played that in every band I ever played in. Loved that song. Now here I am writing with this guy. I mean, this is awesome.
Yeah, that was my actually first cut. I got a songwriting cut in my entire life, and cut.
Now, break. Troy, of course, you guys were kind of like talking about remote writing. So that kind of prepared you for the pandemic and writing remotely, right?
Yeah, I don't know that we wrote before the pandemic, did we? Remotely?
We didn't. We started there because I realized if we don't do that, we'll never write together. And
right. I do need to come up to New Hampshire sometime, though. It would be nice in the summertime, not the wintertime.
I kept looking out at the street, and Troy never showed up. So I figured I should just call him.
Yeah.
But that's one thing. Writing in the pandemic has been kind of life-changing, and it kind of tested us all to see if we could actually do it. I had my doubts if I had the capability of, remote writing and feeling comfortable and relaxed and writing good songs. I had no idea it would work, but it's after a while it just became natural.
Yeah, you sort of forget that screen is there, that there's a window between you, kind of, Then you just act like you're right in the same room, writing together.
It's really cool. Really true.
Rick's a great
guy.
So
how many songs have you guys co-written together?
Well, I would say, at least 15 songs or more.
Gosh, it's hard to believe, but I'd say you're right. I know Rick keeps much better track as he's found out writing with me. He's like, Troy, have you got that work tape done for me yet? Could you send me those lyrics? I was like, yeah, I like writing songs. It's just the doing the homework, it's like school. And Rick's really good at the homework and the writing too. So I'm glad he keeps all that organized.
Good songs. And I have to say too, Troy stepped up this winter. I've been working on building a catalog for a couple of new Christmas albums, and Troy graciously offered to work with me writing some Christmas seasonal songs this winter.
Yeah,
our first together. So that was a fun part of the winter.
It was great, and I tell you, and I'm a Scrooge, and so I don't want to mess with Christmas stuff before Thanksgiving, and I definitely don't want to after Christmas. So Rick was like, right after Christmas, Rick said, hey, you want to write? And I was like, sure. And he's like, I got some Christmas ideas. I'm like, oh, man, I don't know about that. So we wrote a seasonal song about, should we even say, Rick? I mean,
go ahead.
We wrote a song about Jack Frost, which I don't think is something that is a typical bluegrass. And it's not really even a typical sort of bluegrass thing. It's more of just a holiday kind of song. So,
Jack Frost is back.
Yep. Jack is back. So it's pretty
There are very few songs written about Jack Frost in the history of songwriting, and I think ours is probably the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I like to think It's always a good time when we get together. It's just a great team. Rick has great
Well,
ideas.
you guys, I gotta talk about one particular song that you guys, Rick, that you wrote, and Troy, you sing on, and you released this back for Father's Day not too long ago, called "My Daddy's Shoes." So, Rick, tell us a little bit about this song, because this is a song that's really you're very passionate about. I mean, as you are for all your songs, but this one because it's a tribute to your dad, right?
Yeah. I had always wanted to write a tribute song about my dad. He passed away at the age of 63, way before his time, and I didn't get a lot of chance to spend a lot of time with him later on in his life, and he was my hero. And I tried for years and years and years to write this song, and then one summer I was able to put it all together and express what I felt about my dad and reach back at all of the great experiences we had. And then I didn't know what to do with a song, and Troy was, demoing some of my songs, and they're like the best demos ever. And then one day I was thinking about the song and hearing Troy's voice, and I'm thinking like, God, I'm going to ask him to sing on it. And then it sounded like a record. It wasn't like a song demo. It was like a single. And then so I asked him. I said, "Would you mind if we dress it up a little bit and release it as a single for Father's Day so we can have a song to share?" And he was cool with it, so we did that.
Absolutely. It was an honor to sing it, man. It's a great song. As with anything else, if it comes from your heart, you can't go wrong with that. And that's where Rick writes from, is from the heart. And that's why I love writing with him. That's why I love Rick in general. I mean, who doesn't? If you've met Rick Lang and you don't like him, it's your problem. Yep.
Well, thank you for the kind words, my friend. But I like writing with you for the
Definitely.
same.
Definitely. And yeah, Troy,
That's my daddy's shoes right there.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
And you know what? If you read through
Troy,
that song,
yeah, that's I was just
but
getting ready to talk about the
everything in
lyrics
that
there.
song is true. It really happened. Every bit of it is just taken out of our lives together. So pretty cool. Makes me smile.
It's definitely a piece of art that is now out there for all to enjoy, and know the memory that you have of your father. And I think, like I said, Troy, you did a remarkable job with the vocals, and the whole piece. It's a great tribute to Walt, Rick's father. So both of you, I mean, thank you for sharing it with everybody. And if nobody has heard it, they need to go to, of course, all the outlets where they could get the single itself, called "My Daddy's Shoes," with Rick Lang and Troy Engle. Now, Troy, you talked about writing with Rick and places that you guys have kind of written some songs, and that where do you predominantly find yourself being drawn to when you write, whether you're writing with Rick or other co-writers or solo writing?
Right. I don't do a ton of co-writing, and I never really did a bunch. Just certain people, just sort of like Rick, that some people that you really hit it off with. But I think Rick and I's thing most of the time goes to songs of faith, whether it's a gospel song or not. It's usually has sort of a gospel-y kind of message, and because that's where we're both family guys, and we sort of both know that we're very blessed, and we've been blessed where we're at in our lives and with our lives, and sort of where that comes from. So I think I tend to go that direction pretty much every time, and I think we both have, or at least story songs, just songs about simple in life, and those are the best. Just like My Daddy's Shoes that Rick wrote. It's write what you know, and that's sort of where I guess I get just where I go most of the time. Unless now Rick is great about coming up with some really cool ideas that I wouldn't think of. So he'll have a little thought or maybe a verse and a chorus or something, and he'll say, "What do you think of this?" And I'll come in and mess it all up. And then Rick's probably like, "Man, I don't want to write with that guy anymore. He messes all my stuff up." But it's cool to see where we can end up, But I think we draw from the same well.
Well, and you've, Troy, you've worked with so many wonderful folks in the business as well as Rick, but you were mentored by two amazing songwriters in the business who not only are well known in bluegrass but country as well. The late Dixie Hall and Tom T. Hall, two Hall of Famers. Tell us your time about working with them and kind of learning from. I want to say the best storyteller.
Yeah, the storyteller, as he's known as. But Rick probably gets tired of hearing every time we write. I always say, "Well, Tom T says this," or Dixie would say this, But they they were just a wealth of little ideas. Just hey, don't write this. Don't do it like this. Or that kind of thing. They'll have little hints, and I'll say that to Rick. Well, Tom T says, and that's not right. There's 3 songs in that song. You're trying to write 3 songs. Let's just write one of them, kind of thing. And just these little tidbits that, it was just an extreme honor to even be at Tom T and Dixie's down at Fox Hollow down there in Franklin, Tennessee. But to get to write with them, and I was blessed to write 30 songs with them, which is just insane. We just had our weekly appointment, and I would go down there on Wednesdays usually and drink coffee, and we'd write a song in the morning and demo it in the afternoon, and Miss Dixie would try to get it cut before the evening time. But and just osmosis, just being around them and picking up all the stuff.
Well, and working with them, you earned yourself the 2005 Spigma Song of the Year with "That's Kentucky," that was performed by Lorraine Jordan in Carolina Road.
Yeah.
But this also that's how you also got your Grammy nomination with engineering with Tom T, the songs of Fox Hollow.
Eric.
How was that?
Well, that was Eric Brace and Peter Cooper. They had a plan to go ahead and redo the whole Fox Hollow Children's album that Tom T had done with a bunch of Americana artists, and it just ended up being a really amazing record. I was the pretty much the head engineer down there for a little while, and in between, when they were sort of in between engineers, and so they wanted to come and record down there at Fox Hollow, and excuse me, I knew all the gear and that kind of stuff, and their main engineer that they wanted to use didn't know all the stuff, so I sort of was there helping out and showing up to lay the land, and if anything needed fixing, I think our first main problem was the air conditioning. During that record, it was pretty hot down there. So trying to keep the guys cool and keep the session running well. But yeah, I was blessed to have my name on it as engineer and, get a little certificate saying, being nominated for a Grammy, which is an amazing honor. So, yeah.
Right. And Rick, talk about a Grammy nomination. You recently had a good time out in California for your Grammy nomination for Gonna Sing, Gonna Shout with Billy Blue Records. How was that experience? Because you got to experience this just recently and with your entire family.
Yeah, I got to tell you, never in my wildest dreams that I think anything like that would be remotely possible in my life. So I'm just a songwriter that has this passion about this hobby of songwriting from New Hampshire. I never thought it would amount to anything. I just do it because I love doing it. And but I think I'm just very thankful that a lot of the co-writers that I befriended who helped me write songs for that record, that was kind of the key to the album, was the really good songs and getting Jerry Sally overseeing producing the record and getting Billy Blue label and Daywind behind promoting it. I mean, here I am releasing records that I don't even sing and play on. They're just my songs. It's kind of an unusual concept, but it worked. And we just get tons of support, including all the radio DJs and radio programmers everywhere supported the heck out of this record, played the heck out of it. We just got tons of support, and I'm just very thankful for that it led to an IBMA award, which is my first IBMA award, and then to a Grammy nomination, which is just insanely, I feel so blessed. But then, to be honest with you, what's even cooler than all of that is going out to the Grammys with my entire family, my wife, my two daughters, my son-in-law, and my granddaughters, and all of us going out there and going to the Grammys together takes the cake. That was the best.
Yep.
Enjoying the experience together was just a joy of a lifetime.
That's awesome.
You know? So I'm just,
especially when it happened right before the pandemic was officially in lockdown.
we made it by that much. I think even if we were flying back from the LA airport, there were people with masks on coming in from overseas, and we didn't think anything about it because we didn't know anything was going on. But then within a month later, the whole country in the world was in chaos, and I realized that we just barely made it through this, and we were so blessed to have that experience, before the pandemic, because after that it wouldn't be happening. And it was just a memory of a lifetime. I'm just have so many people to thank, and it just, I guess, reinforces my love of the music and passion for the music, and makes me want to work hard to keep going at it, So.
Well, as you guys continue to write, has there been someone that you still would like to write with? I have this question from a Marcia who's tuning in. That is someone that you haven't written with and that you would like to write with someday. Well, Troy, we'll go with you first because I know you don't co-write much, but there's got to be someone still that you would love to write with.
Boy, that's a great question. I mean, it sounds morbid, but I think some of the guys that I would love to write with aren't with us anymore. But Harley Allen is definitely one of them. That's one name that comes up every time Rick and I write. But I don't. Gosh, living right now, I don't know. I mean, I've never even thought about that. I mean, writing with Rick Lang is honor enough. I mean, he's a Grammy winner. I mean,
Well.
How about you, Rick?
Me? Well, I think that I've ended up writing with a lot of people that I had hoped to write with so far. People that were interested in writing with me. One person I had planned to write with in one of my trips to Nashville was Ronnie Bowman, because I'm working on songs for another project, and we're going to write one together. So I had two songwriting appointments scheduled with Ronnie, and some unforeseen thing came up both times that we had to cancel it. And then the pandemic hit, and it may never happen. But I hope I could sometime, because he writes really good songs.
Yeah, he's one of my faves too. He would be on my list. I agree with Rick.
He's a really cool cat. But what I will say is this: I'm writing with a few people in my circle of co-writers that if it wasn't for the pandemic, I never get to write with. One of them is Josh Schilling with the band Mountain Heart. We've been writing on a regular basis, and if he was out there touring, he would never be available to write with. And he's had time, and all of a sudden we've been writing some really cool stuff, including some Southern gospel type tunes. And so there's been an opportunity to write with some people who are available now because they have more time. Singers in some bands who have more time to write. So I get, 12 or 15 people that I write with on a regular basis. Of course, Troy's at the top of the list right there.
I'm at the top right now, just so on the screen. That's it.
But I call and we usually write every 2 or 3 weeks or so, and it's become a regular thing. And someday you're going to hear some of those songs, because people are definitely going to cut them. They're really, really, really good songs. And
Rick's given me some good news here of lately, but like Miss Dixie used to say, it ain't final till it's vinyl, so we don't talk about these things.
That's true.
I was thinking we have to find for something that rhymes with digital,
Yeah. But one thing
true.
I'm pretty sure of is I am building my collection of songs for a follow-up to Gonna Sing, Gonna Shout. And Troy and I have written some really good gospel tunes together, and it's my hope that we can get 1 or 2 of those songs on that next record. That would be an honor to have Troy Engle co-writer too on that record.
That would be awesome. I would be honored. I tell you, I was listening to one today. We wrote called "The Power of Prayer." Oh my goodness! I mean, I was getting chills and about to get happy just listening to the my work tape of it. It wasn't my performance; it's just the song. The song was bigger than either one
Power
of
of
us.
Prayer.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean,
it's one of the best ones. We had a
yeah,
couple that gave us both goosebumps when we were all done.
yeah,
Power of Prayer.
yeah.
Troy came up with it, did a work tape version that sounded like a recording, and it was
Right.
just, it'll stop you in your tracks. It was just
Yeah,
beauty. It was art. And
yeah. It's bigger than both of us. When you write something that's bigger than anything, it had somebody else's hand on it. It wasn't just ours, holding the pen. So, yeah.
so very
Now,
proud.
now you guys both don't just write for bluegrass, and Rick, you especially, your music has been covered by artists within Southern gospel and jazz, and as well as bluegrass. Is there a preferred style of writing that you are passionate about? Is it more so now these days bluegrass than the others? Because you have a wide spread of catalogs all over across the board.
That's a good question. I just look at it that I write songs, period, and they all come out different. Um, a lot of people that I write with grew up listening to country music, old-time country music, bluegrass, and traditional music. I grew up in the 50s and 60s listening to soul music, R&B, Motown, and rock and roll. And how I ever ended up connecting with bluegrass was quite a surprise to me.
You're such the rebel, Rick.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a late bloomer, I think. That's what they call that.
Well, you're making up for the late part, I think. So
Could be.
you're
But
blooming
all
well.
types of music. And the whole jazz thing, I was working on a songs for a new Christmas album, and I wasn't that familiar with jazz. And I had Stephen Mogen, I sent him a couple of my Christmas songs and asked him if he possibly could demo them because I wanted to pitch some of my Christmas songs. And he got them, and he calls me back 2 weeks later, and he says, I really like these songs a lot, but I don't know if you're interested, but they could sound really good in a jazz setting. And I thought I was talking with somebody from another planet. I'm thinking, really? Yeah, I said, I can hear these, like, it's with that sound of the 30s, 40s, and 50s classical Christmas songs. So I said, if you think that'll work, that'd be great. So he went and demoed the songs with some jazz cats down in Nashville, and they sounded phenomenal. And then we decided, well, if you can do that to those two songs, let's take some of the other ones and build an album around having sort of some classic traditional sounding Christmas album. And he did it, and it was just a blast. And I got introduced to the jazz world and some great jazz musicians and singers that made my Christmas album. That's what I love about Christmas, just a joy.
Mhm.
And it was just a chance thing, but it's a nice diversion. It was just fun,
Right, right. Now, Troy, when you're writing, do you like just sit down and you start, or are you doing something and something pops in your head and then you go with the flow? How do you operate as a songwriter, on the whim?
Yeah, on the whim. It's really two different ways. I mean, co-writing is different with Rick. Normally he'll have an idea and like I say, I'll come in and mess with it and probably screw it up. But when I'm just writing by myself, a lot of times it's just, I'll have an idea. You hear songwriters always have their radar up and always listen for that next little catchphrase or little something they can steal from somebody else. And so I'll have that thought. And songs happen pretty quick to me. I'm not ADHD, but it's really got to happen pretty quick. I'm usually, write this thing and get it done in an hour or two or something like that. I just, it comes pretty quick, I guess. I try not to overthink it.
I was going to ask you if there has been a song that maybe you haven't finished, or you've started and it took you a couple years to finish. Has
Yeah.
that ever happened to you?
It has. There was one on my first album, Southern Skies, called Springtime in Old Tennessee. I had this chorus in my head, and I would walk around singing it for years. And I never had any verses. And we ended up going down 81 once we moved back, visiting Tennessee. And all the verses just came to me. So that's one of the rare times that I've never really finished something. Miss Dixie always said, finish a song, whether you like the part that you have, if it's missing a verse, if you don't like that verse, but just finish it. Because if you don't, you'll never finish it, which most of the time I'm that way, but that was one of the few times that I've sat on something. I think Rick is probably the same way as me. Sometimes you might get such a good idea that you're like, I just really can't write that right now. I know it's so good, but I don't know what to do with it. So you better just let it sit in the stew a little bit, So
Right.
sometimes
Where has been like the oddest moment of your day or of whatever you were doing that a song just came to you? Like where is somewhere that's like you wouldn't think it would happen, but like you said, it just happens.
Oh, it could be at any moment, anytime. A lot of times, in the shower will happen. Most people sing in the shower. Maybe I sort of write songs in the shower, but it just sort of comes to you. But it could be anywhere. I mean, I'm sure Rick's the same way. You can be at the grocery store and somebody says something, you're like, oh, bam, that's a that's a killer idea. So then the wheels start turning. That's when you're around your family and your wife sort of looks at you like, oh, he's got the songwriting. His switch it flipped. Okay, well, we'll see you in 20 minutes. Okay, have fun. Your eyes glass over. They're talking, but you can't hear them because you're busy writing something up there. So.
Uh-huh. How about you, Rick? Where's been a place, somewhere that is an unusual place, or maybe, a location or state that you were just kind of like doing your thing, and then the next thing happened, you got a song that comes into your head?
I do remember one time, maybe it was 15 or 20 years ago, I was headed to work at our lumber company, and my mind was all on lumber and what I had to do that day. And I'm driving down the road thinking about that, and all of a sudden this amazing song idea came into my head. And I'm about half a mile from the lumber yard, and I started thinking about the song within the lumber yard. And like I just remember driving past the lumber yard, like wave. I just kept going with the parking ride about a mile up the road. I drove up to the parking ride and sat in the parking ride for an hour and worked on the song.
Wow.
Did they wonder what happened to you because you didn't show up to the lumberyard?
They've gotten used to it and they've stopped wondering. They just know.
If he wasn't the boss, his boss might have a problem with it, but
Right. I've never been on time in the history of my life, so that they never thought twice about it. But quite often I'll have a plan and I'm going someplace and some song will just come into view and I'll have to just change my plan. And I'm thankful when those things happen. But Troy's right. It's hard to, you got to capture the inspiration when it's there. If it comes to you, lucky enough to be inspired. But I find for me, the key is trying to come up with really good song ideas that haven't been done before. I've worked hard at that. I would say like every day, early in the morning, because I get up probably 4:30. I spend like probably an hour brainstorming about new song ideas to try to coming up with some new song ideas. If I had some writing appointments ahead that week and I really want to bring something to the table, I'll actually spend a block of time just thinking and trying to come up with some new material to consider writing. And I found that that's kind of essential, especially if you write a lot. And another thing Troy mentioned, sometimes you come up with an idea, and it happens to me way too much, that you have a great title or an idea, but you can't do anything with it. Like you'll sit down and nothing will happen. And I'll look over my song list and say, that is a great idea, but like I'm not inspired, like nothing's going on. But what I do is when I get together with my co-writers, I'll take two or three that I think are really good, but I couldn't get them going, and I'll just send them to them. And if one of them picks one, like, let's do that one, they'll take it and get the song started because it inspired them when I couldn't do anything, and they'll get the song started. So if it wasn't for co-writing, a lot of these ideas for songs I've written in the last few years would just be ideas on a page, no more than that.
Right. And Rick, one of the things that I find amazing and hard to believe that your first co-wrote was with fellow songwriters Donna Ulisi and Jerry Salley. How is that, like, when you think about it and where you're at now with your relationship with working with Jerry and Donna on numerous other projects? What has your mind been like thinking since that day that you wrote that first song?
Can I tell you the story about how that happened?
Of course.
Because that was the wildest thing. I was terrified. I almost needed therapy. I was like, I had never toured before, and I went down to the Leadership Bluegrass, to Nashville, to the Leadership Bluegrass program, and I got there with an afternoon despair before the plan started. And I contacted Donna Ulisi, who I knew, and asked if she would consider co-writing with me. And I told her I never had co-written before, but I know you're really good at it, and would you consider it? So she said, sure. So I didn't even have a car because the hotel I was staying in was close to where the Leadership Bluegrass class was. So I figured I could walk to it. But then I didn't realize that what Donna was her publishing office was a long walk from there. I hadn't figured that out. So I get down there, and I had a handheld GPS, and she gave me an address, and I'm trying to find her place, and I'm running late, and then I realized it was like a mile or two away, so I started running. I get there, and I'm running, and I'm sweating, and I'm trying to find the place, and I couldn't find it. And I get there like half an hour late, and I'm totally trashed by then. And I walk to the door, and I said, I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe we should just call it off. And then she says, oh, Rick, by the way, Jerry Salley said he had a songwriting appointment canceled and came in. I was wondering if we could write the song together. And I said, why don't you guys write it together? I'm good. Why don't I just leave? Because I can never write with you two. I mean, I don't know what I could contribute. So they said, no, come on in.
You hadn't caught your breath yet.
And they were really kind, knowing that I was really panicked over my head and really was struggling. And I sat down with them, and they made me feel comfortable. And we ended up writing a song that was on Donna's Christmas album called Morning in Bethlehem Together, which is this great song. I might have contributed like 2% to the song out of the whole 100%, maybe.
Don't tell anybody.
Well, maybe 1%. I'm not sure.
33 and a third.
But when I get done, I realize maybe this is even possible. So that one experience that I was almost traumatized by was a catalyst in realizing it. Co-writing, the benefits of co-writing, I realized really fast. Work with people who are really good at it, who can help you learn, help you grow, and you can learn from. And that started it all. And I never really thought much beyond that one songwriting session. But after all these years, I've co-written with a whole bunch of people, and Jerry Salley, Donna and I have written some songs. Jerry produced my gospel album, and so much has happened. But that one songwriting session really kind of was the spark that made me think maybe there's something possible here. And I was ready to walk out the room. I can't do this.
So that extra run gave you that, like, I'm not sure if I want to do this kind of thing. But it's produced a lifelong friendship with the two of them, and the work that you have done in the past several years, and sounds like another album's about to come out of some of these amazing co-writes and that. And of course, when you think about the stories that funny stories, whether they happen to you as a solo writer or a co-writer, I mean, it's gotta like kind of light the flame for another song out of it.
Yeah.
Especially when you're hanging
So
out with
Troy,
other songwriters.
right? Yeah, exactly.
Everybody starts
Now,
fighting over
Troy,
good ideas.
Now, Troy, of course, your band it is been out on the road. Obviously, during the pandemic, you guys, like everybody else, have been kind of put to a halt, and you guys using the resources of doing multiple different things, from co-writing with Rick and writing solely. But you and your family specifically started doing some singing in the kitchen, and your wife definitely does some amazing cooking. Tell us a little bit about this, because I know you guys are getting ready to do another one soon.
Yeah, we're doing one this weekend, but we do picking in the kitchen. We started it with the band. I had sort of thought of it a couple years ago. Of course, it's my two favorite pastimes: bluegrass music and eating. So, figure out if we could combine both of those. Mandy is a killer cook, and you always watch Paula Dean and all these great cooking shows. I'm like, Mandy could do that. She's better than those guys anyway. So we started doing it with the band when I started the band, and we did 3 or 4. And of course, with COVID hitting, we were like, well, what do we do? And we're blessed that our kids, Troy and Lizzie, are just great musicians. My son Troy, he's 13, and he plays mandolin and guitar and cello, and so he's been playing some great mandolin and singing. And Lizzie plays fiddle a little bit, and she's a good guitar player too, and piano, and sings like a bird. She's got perfect pitch. I think she's going on 15 now. So they're great musicians. So we're blessed to, of course, Mandy, my wife Mandy, plays bass in our band, and so we sort of have our own little mini band here at the house. So we thought, well, I'm going to put these guys to work, and so that's what we did. So we have a good time with it, and sort of sit around and cut up and play a few songs on the show. It's called Picking in the Kitchen with Southern Skies. It's on our YouTube channel, and maybe one of these days it could be on Bluegrass TV. You never know. But
you just never know.
You just never know. But hint, hint, wink, wink. Yeah. But we have a good time eating and picking, and I try to keep a little theme. Like this week, I've got a new song coming out on February 9th off the new Fox Hollow Memories album called "Welcome Aboard." It's going to be the new single, and so we're going to do a sort of a train theme one. Mandy's going to cook hobo sacks, which is so the only train food I could think of. So. Yeah, there's the Fox Hollow Memories. You
guys just recently have done a video for the new single, "Welcome Aboard," as well, correct?
We did. Yeah, I'm very blessed that I've got a buddy of mine, Brian Lazaro, who is a friend of a friend, my buddy Mike Thomas, who's a Glen Rock guy, introduced me to Brian, and Brian just so happens is a CMT award-winning video director. He's won like Breakout Video with Florida Georgia Line, and done stuff for Joe Nichols and Pink, and I mean, it's just amazing. But he literally lives, 5 miles away from me in Railroad, PA, which is pretty funny because the song "Welcome Aboard" is a train song, a gospel train song I wrote with Tom T and Dixie, and so he ended up having some footage. We have this great steam engine called Steam Into History. It's the Northern Central Railway, and actually, yeah, down there at the bottom with me playing the mandolin, I'm in front of the caboose, but bring it up the rear as usual. But so he had some great footage from the train, and I said, "Hey, let's go. Would you mind cutting it?" He's agreed to work on a bluegrass budget, which I don't know why, but he's a really nice guy, and I appreciate him doing some charity work. And so we cut that a few weeks back, and he's like, "Oh man, it's supposed to be pretty nice that day, so let's film something." And we went over there, and it was overcast, the wind was blowing, and it was 30 degrees, and we about froze, but. He did as good as he could do with his subject matter, which is me. So he has to put up with that. But he just does an amazing job, and I'm blessed to have him on that. He also did our Haunting Me video that was out too as well. So blessed to have have him do both of those. They look amazing. So
Wow. Well, it's great to see this pandemic is definitely not keeping folks down. I mean, you guys are all being very creative in different aspects of what you do in the bluegrass community. And of course, we all had an opportunity to gather in 2019 to be part of the songwriter showcases at IBMA. And thanks to Rick for asking me to MC and gave me a chance to introduce you and hear your band. And it was like, I gotta be honest, and I even told you that night when you started playing some of the songs, I did not realize how many songs you have written that other people have recorded, Troy. I mean, it is just amazing how much, not only as you as an artist, but what you do as a songwriter for others in the community. And Rick, tell us a little bit about the songwriting committee, because I know you're huge with making sure that is, going strong, especially with the virtual IBMA this past year. And hopefully we'll all be back in person in this coming year. But how do you kind of like, rally the troops, rally the songwriters up for what you guys do throughout the year? Rick?
Well, it's certainly more interesting now in this day and age. I think the key is you have to have people in the committee who have a deep love and passion for the music, whose heart's in it, and who want to contribute, help the cause of the songwriter. I think last year was a big challenge having having a virtual world of bluegrass, because we were kind of limited to the type of events that we could pull off virtually as opposed to in person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the year before we had 11 or 12 songwriter-centric events at the World of Bluegrass. But we picked out some things that we felt people would enjoy and get value from, and we had to find somebody to lead each event or host it in a virtual setting there. But we just all brainstorm, try to come up with good ideas, try to make it entertaining. It's a lot of fun because we have a chance to showcase other songwriters, and I think this last time we did some song circles, and we did the songwriter showcase that I think that Mike Mitchell and Jennifer Brick pulled off some great video footage of the contestants for that. That was pretty cool. But we put a lot of work into it. I mean, like every year, I think in March, we start in March brainstorming for a World of Bluegrass in the fall. And it really usually takes about half a year to put something together, to decide on the events we're going to have, to get a panel together, to coordinate it with the powers to be at the IBMA. So it really takes time, but it's a lot of fun. I think it's amazing. The songwriter constituency at the IBMA has just grown in leaps and bounds. I mean, there's just more and more songwriters than ever, even in bands. Like, there's hardly any bluegrass band in bluegrass music that doesn't have one or two songwriters in the band.
Yep. And that wasn't the case for a long time. I think we're in the heyday of that. I think that's an awesome thing.
It's phenomenal, and that's why we're hearing just this amazing burst in new songs coming out all the time. Original material everywhere you turn. It's very healthy for the music, and we're doing what we can on the songwriter committee to help support it, to help support songwriters. And I should mention too, we started 2 or 3 years ago putting out the songwriter newsletter, which Troy has contributed to, among others. And So we send it out every 6 weeks or so, and it's a newsletter geared towards a songwriter. It'll have articles about songwriting or songwriter-related topics, information. Some of them are are written written articles. Some are videos, because Troy did this killer video on demoing songs, because he's a master at demoing songs, and
well, I'm the best in my price range.
One of the key things, I think a lot of people who maybe are consider becoming songwriters or diving in and writing some music, I think some folks kind of wonder, like, how do you two individually decided to do your licensing and publishing? Because I mean, obviously those are key things for a songwriter to have. um, do you self-publish, or are you guys not self-publish? How do you guys actually do that? Troy, well, why don't you take this one first?
Sure. I do my own publishing. I mean, I also have a demo service like Rick was talking about. I do bluegrass demos, and I always have clients say, "Well, what do you recommend? Do you have a publishing, or should I get my own publishing company?" And you know, and the thing is, even record labels sometimes don't know. I've had record labels say, "Well, if you don't have a publishing company, then we'll keep your publishing." Well, no, I can get excess writer clearance. I can actually keep both sides if I want to. But so I do have my own publishing company. But when you write, then it becomes different things in your different splits and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I don't have any exclusive thing. I learned a lot more about that probably than some people know through doing TV music and TV publishing and doing music for TV shows, because that is a whole real industry of publishing companies, and every company you deal with is a different publishing company. So but it's good to be well versed in that, because we all know you're not going to make millions of dollars, especially in the bluegrass world, but at least get credit, and at least get that $15 that you deserve, for at least a little something back. And it's nice to see that. I think some labels have come along and realized that the songwriter is as important. So I think that's a good thing. How about you, Rick? You had your own publishing company, I know.
Yeah, I started it about 20 years ago. It's Haleyana Music, and that's the name of my publishing company is named after one of my nieces who lives in Florida, whose name is Haleyana. And so I just feel if you set up your own publishing company, you have control over your songs, and you have ownership of your songs,
Mm-hmm.
and you have control over what happens to your songs. And I asked advice from some songwriters I knew back when I get involved with bluegrass about publishing, and they suggested you'd benefit by doing your own publishing. And even though there's paperwork and there's a lot of record keeping involved in it, I just think you own your song catalog. I would say that probably 2/3 of the co-writers that I work with have their own publishing.
Okay.
So when you get a song cut or recorded, you'll see 2 or 3 publishing entities on there, and just there's a lot of benefits from that. And I agree with Troy. It's a good thing to do.
It's not hard. It's not hard to do it all. If you can get it, you just get with the performance rights organizations, either ASCAP or BMI or CSAC or one of those. But I'm with BMI. I don't know, who are you with, Rick? Are you with BMI? Yeah. And I think, what was it, $100 or $200 to start your own publishing company? I mean, it's a little investment, but it's something that you'll keep. Like Rick said, he's had his for 20 years. I've had mine for probably 15 or so, or something like that. So once you have it, it's a once and done kind of thing, and it's really not that complex, and they're there to help you.
Yeah.
So,
and the thing is, it's like like you said, you have that full ownership of your catalog there, and of course in these times, obviously it was I know this is gonna go back. You had cassettes and you had the vinyl, and then you went to compact discs, and now we have the digital world, and vinyl's coming back. It's how do you, as a songwriter and owning your own publishing company, kind of keep the royalties intact because you have digital sales, you have physical sales. How does that work for you guys because you are your own? We'll just say your own bosses in that aspect.
Right. Right.
I think the PROs take care of it for you pretty much. I mean,
Pretty much, yeah. As far as performance, as far as getting played on the radio or things like that. Then you have the mechanical royalty side, which is,
Mhm.
a band decides to record it, and either if they're on a record label, then they print up 1,000 CDs, and they need to pay you, the statutory rate, which is what 9 cents a song for every CD. And I will say, classically, bluegrass and bluegrass artists have been pretty way behind on mechanicals. So even on stuff that I've written with Tom T and Dixie that I know, I'll still get a check from the Harry Fox agency for like 20 cents. I'm like, that's not possible. Somebody only made 4 CDs or 5 CDs. I know that's just not, I don't worry about the money as far as Tom T and Dixie. They were so good to us, but some of these labels and artists, and there are artists that have been great, just like Larry Stevenson. He's one of the best, with Best Laid Plans. He pays you to the dime. He knows, whatever he owes you, he pays you. And some labels and artists are really good for that.
absolutely.
And some are, and it's not it's not negligence really, or not intended. They don't want to. They're not trying to keep you keep from paying you. They just don't know that they need to do it. And that's so try to, and that's part of the songwriting committee. The more the whole industry knows about songwriting, the better off it's going to be, whether they're songwriters or not. They I feel like we're getting a little more respect than we have in the past, because it's funny. A lot of fans still think that the artist who sings it wrote it. They think just because third time out is singing a song, Russell Moore wrote that song, not necessarily, or that kind of thing. So I think it's a whole world that people don't even know exist.
That's
Right. And speaking of songs, and Rick, one is gonna be it's his latest single, Alan Bybee's latest single, Blue Collar Blues, that you wrote, is coming up on his new album with Billy Blue Records tomorrow. It officially is released, the whole Hitchhiking to California. That's gonna be some great fields as artists are continuously working hard during this pandemic and recording singles, and his latest single now being a song that you had wrote.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for that Alan and his band cut that song. I had a chance to write with Jerry Salley a few times. When we did the Gonna Sing, Gonna Shout record, we wrote for a few days for that particular album. But then we got together a couple other times and wrote just songs. And I remember I met him Jerry at his house one day, and I've had this idea for the song for years called Blue Collar Blues. And the song is about a blue collar construction worker who's struggling with that really hard way of life where you're underpaid, overworked. You don't seem like you're getting anywhere, and it's pretty tough sledding. And so I wanted to write a song to pay tribute to the blue collar worker, of which I was one back in my 20s. I was a construction worker for many, many years. And Jerry was up for writing the song, and I think we pretty well nailed it telling the story and about a blue collar worker. And I didn't know if anybody was going to cut it, but I was thankful Alan did, and did a great job. And I think folks will like it. It's real. It's like as real as it gets. And so I'm very thankful. And anytime any artist chooses one of your songs to record, it's quite an honor.
And actually, that was gonna be my next question. Has there been an artist that kind of, for you, Rick, that kind of stands out, who has recorded a song that you would never thought would record one of your songs?
I don't know. never really thought about it. Well, my first cut by the Lonesome River Band, "Listen to the Word of God." I never thought that song would ever get recorded by anybody in history of music. So,
That's a
but
bluegrass standard.
yeah, absolutely. So actually, that first cut was one I never thought I would get a bluegrass cut in my lifetime, and I never thought anybody would cut that song. But I caught the break of a lifetime. Um, I was like, I was in my, I was, or it was early in my songwriting days, and I was writing a lot of really bad songs. And I wouldn't say they're bad; they just weren't good. I'm safe to say.
That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah.
But I like the bluegrass. I like the blues element in bluegrass gospel music. Bill Monroe did a lot of that with his songs, and I wrote this song one time, and I remember sending a cassette tape to the Lonesome River Band, and I had never met most of the people I sent songs to. They didn't know me from Adam, and I'm sure most of them get thrown in the recycle bin. Didn't take them out of the package or anything. They just probably just didn't even listen to them. But I wanted to try, and I thought nothing would ever happen to it. But this actually is a true story. I went to an Alison Krauss concert in central New Hampshire one time, and my wife and I are sitting there watching the show, and I went to go to the restroom, and I noticed that in the back wall, Dan Tominski was there. This was before he was in the band, but he showed up to be a guest at the show. They asked him if he would come to the show and he could do a few songs with them. So he was standing against the back wall, and I walked by him and I said hi, and he says, Rick, have you got any chance you could send me another cassette copy of "Listen to the Word of God"? And I almost fell on the floor. And he said, Tim and I listened to it and really liked it, but he lost the cassette tape, so we weren't going to record it. But if you could send us another tape, we were interested in recording the song. That actually happened. So I found the song. They did this phenomenal track, and was my first song cut and the album ended up being album of the year. And that's like the break of a lifetime. So I'm very grateful for that. And
it's the Rick Lang touch.
Huh?
It's the Rick Lang touch. It all turns to gold. See?
No, it's just like, who go figure how that could actually happen, just the life circumstance. But and I was playing, and I wasn't a very good musician, and I was playing mandolin on the track, and I'm playing these like simple little turnarounds that a child could play, and they almost played it like that on the record. I'm thinking like, no way they were playing what I was playing when I sent it to them. Mm-hmm. But it was really rewarding. It kind of inspired me that maybe I can do this, and I'll keep working at it. And because I had always heard before I get a song cut, you have to write 100 bad songs before you're going to write a good one. I think that's been written in songwriting books. Well, I wrote my first 100 bad songs and started on the second 100 bad songs.
Number 101.
Yeah, before I started writing good ones. But I kept at it and, improved over time. But the co-writing with people and learning from my co-writers has really been the thing that's helped me the most over the years, including Troy. I learned from Troy.
Right.
We learned from Tom T and Dixie Hall. I'm absorbing some of that through him when I write with him, some of that wisdom.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, and I think that's like a key thing is absorbing from each other. And, you guys have mentioned about, when people hear a song, they usually feel like the musician who's singing it and performing is the songwriter, not necessarily the case. And, the songs all begin with the songwriter and a pen and a paper and an idea. And you guys definitely make it all seem so easy with the songs that you have written through your career. What is one, as we get ready to wrap things things up. What is one thing as songwriters that you could, pull out of your hat of tricks, that an advice that you could give someone who's aspiring to be a songwriter, that they could take from, tuning in and hearing what you had to say? Troy, we'll go with you
Gosh,
first.
I would say just listen to as much stuff as you can. Latch on to that stuff that you love the most. For me, it was probably growing up listening to Randy Travis records and listen, just picking apart every line. Looking at the liner notes and just reading those lyrics and just seeing how things are put together. Keeping your mind open. I hear people all the time. I see people go, "Man, I just don't know what to write about." And I know Tom T was not one of those guys. He would just take off on these trips, on songwriting trips, where he would just get stories, and that's where he got his stuff. He'd just go sit in a diner somewhere and watch people. So that's the thing. Just keep your antenna open. And I think at the same time your antenna is open, you have to keep your filter on too. Because and I do the same thing too. You go, "Oh, that's an awesome idea," and then 2 seconds later, "Oh," and then once somebody can say, "I had eggs for breakfast," and you go, "Oh my gosh, that's a great song." And you have to be able to say, "Well, yeah, I don't know how good how good that's going to be." But I think just keeping your ears
Right.
open, doing as much research, trying to read things that you. I'm not a huge reader, but try to even reading whatever kind of novels or books or something that might open your mind and try. And like Rick said before, I think it's important to be different. So you also have to know where everybody's already been, so you don't go there, kind of thing too. So you sort of have to have a finger on the pulse of what's already been written, and try to avoid that or find a new way to. Like Rick and I always talk about doing gospel songs. Every gospel message has been written about, thousands of times, and trying to come up with a new gospel song, But there's just new. You just have to find your perspective. I think is the whole thing. Find your take on something new. So,
How about you, Rick? What kind of advice you could give to future writers?
Well, I think for me, I didn't discover this early on, but if you write from your own personal experiences, if you write what you know, I mean, I started out writing songs because I was listening to Flatt and Scruggs when I was discovered bluegrass, and I'm thinking like, oh, I should write a song about a cabin in a hill too, because they did it. Like I never lived in a cabin in a hill. So I'm writing these songs that really didn't make you feel anything. And after a few years, I realized you have to write what you know, what your own experiences are. I live near the ocean, so I don't live up in hills. So I started writing songs about my surroundings, about the ocean and experiences near the ocean. And so I started writing what I knew, writing from personal experiences, just writing from something deep inside. Write what you feel what you write. And I think just that alone, just look around, write about your own world, because when you write, you could write a song about something that somebody else had already written about, but through your eyes and from your own heart, it's going to come out different because it's you.
Yeah.
God made us all different, and I think just be who you are, and just that's how I feel.
Well, numerous songs that you both have wrote together and as individuals, they have touched not only my heart, but others, not only in the bluegrass community, but all genres of music. That's why they fall in love with you guys as songwriters and what you do, your collaborations together. Just just making that mark, and allowing artists, other artists, to take what you've written and just pass it on to others to enjoy. And that's one of the privileges I have in radio, being able to be that outlet for your music from the artist, that moment. And we cannot thank you guys enough for what you guys do, putting that pen to paper, and in Troy's case, putting it to the demo to to record it yourself or send it off to other artists to record. But it's
Thank
always
you.
great fun. And I just want to remind folks of Troy's latest album. Yeah, exactly. Is Fox Hello Memories songs. Beautiful album of all the songs that you've written with, not all, but most of them that you've written with Dixie and Tom T. And I will tell you, my personal favorite, of course, is Mama, What Does Heaven Look Like? And that is just one of the special songs off that album. And of course, Rick, your Grammy nominated and your IBMA album song of Gonna Sing, Gonna Shout won you that IBMA award with Claire Lynch on vocals. And you got you that Grammy nomination. So, thank you so much for on the Thursday. The weather stays less frigid, as they're calling for it in all our areas this weekend. So I hope you guys all stay safe. But I want to, before we officially go, we want to remember a great fellow radio broadcaster in the bluegrass community, Bob Mitchell. I believe it was before the holidays, he went in for surgery and unfortunately passed away yesterday due to COVID-19. So one of the key things is, his style of broadcasting, made a huge impact in the bluegrass community, nominated for multiple SPIGMA awards for DJ of the Year, as well as IBMA Broadcaster of the Year in the years. And he will always be remembered for entertaining the wonderful folks everywhere and across the world. And I just, when you hear of someone passing, it's always, devastating. But when it's this pandemic, the reason why we're all in the lockdown, that just reminds us, you need to be cautious, be safe, and, we will get through this. But we will remember Bob Mitchell and what he has done for the bluegrass community in the years to come, because he was such a remarkable man with what he's done in radio and his programming. And I know he's had the opportunity to talk with Troy on numerous occasions. And of course, Rick, he played your tunes, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
But he certainly made the best thing you can do in this life is take your God-given talents and do something to make the world a better place. And he sure did that.
Yes, he did. Yeah. And he's one of those guys you won't hear a bad word spoken about.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is for sure. Well, I want to say thank you again, Troy Engle. And of course, visit troyengle.com for his latest details of his album. Again, the songs I wrote with Dixie and Tom T, Fox Hello Memories, and Gonna Sing, Gonna Shout from Rick Lang and Billy Blue Records. I'm looking forward to seeing more things coming from you, your pen, both of your pens together and solely. Congratulations, Rick, on the latest single with Alan Bobby being released. And, Welcome Aboard is the next single for Troy. Cannot wait to see the video. I know that's going to be out soon in the next maybe a few hours.
Maybe. Yeah.
Wait.
So I thank you guys for being part of the show. And, it's always enlightening to hear from, like I said, the artists are artists and songwriters are artists too, but just in a different way with a pen and a paper. And it goes a long way and it touches so many hearts and so many people in the world. So thank you for your talents. And I invite you all to join me in 2 weeks where we will have episode 3 of season 2. Our special guests are going to be Dan Eubanks of Special Consensus and Daryl Nicholson of Blossom Range. That will be February 11th, right here as we get real. Thank you guys again so much for your time. Everybody, hope you join me tomorrow morning, 7 to noon, with the Smoke Country Jam on WOBL. You can catch it online at woblradio.com, as well as from our free mobile app. And of course, the Bluegrass Borderline, Sundays afternoon at noon, right there on WOBL. And thanks again for everybody allowing me to get real. It's Troy and Rick here on Real Talk Bluegrass. Thanks for Sammy Passamano behind the scenes, keeping us on and going strong with Bluegrass Music TV. Check out Bluegrass Music TV Prime. You get your opportunity to subscribe free for the next few days, and just for $4.95, you can catch amazing, great shows, Bluegrass Music Prime as well. Take care, everybody. Until next time, I'm Michelle Lee. I thank you.